One of my 4-year-old's most favorite YouTube videos, well, music videos, I should say, at the moment, is the compilation of all the TV title sequences for Doctor Who. You just do a search on YouTube for Doctor Who title music. There are tons of copies out there. One of the official ones on the Doctor Who YouTube channel. It's a nice compilation. It goes through almost every single version of the title sequence of the show, 1963 all the way to the present, 1st through 13th Doctors. There are a couple minor variations that it skips. And, of course, there's all the Big Finish audio versions of the music that would double the length of that list. But, basically, it's got most of them there. And, most Doctor Who fans, myself very much included, like the title music. We like it a lot. And it's an iconic piece of music. It's been sitting around since 1963, and it's survived over 50 years. It undergoes many variations. I mean, I don't think any other franchise quite has that longevity. Star Trek tends to have similar title music a lot of the time, but each version of the show has a different tune. The Star Wars movies, I suppose, do have that classic bum ba da ba 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 in happy, loud B flat major, but that's a movie series. There's technically just 8 of them and 9 soon. So here we have Doctor Who theme music. And as a music geek, I thought it would be fun at some point, like now, to take a look at some of the differences and how the music has changed over time. You don't need a music geek to tell you that the arrangement has changed over time. And if you watch that video, I'll have a link to it in the description. You'll see very easily that the style and arrangement changes bit by bit. And you can hear it adding more sound effects and expanding different things and changing the ending from era to era. So what I thought I would do with this video is talk about something that is less often dealt with, the music theory behind it. In particular, what the keys are that it's being played in and how that impacts the sound of that particular version. So if you're ready to be super geeky on top of being a nerd, here we go. So I'm not going to do every single version of the title music. When it undergoes minor rearrangements and slightly different orchestration changes, I'm not going to deal with all of those. So I'm going to lump together the first nearly 20 years in one go. Seasons 1 through 17 have the basic Delia Derbyshire arrangement with minor variations along the way. This gets you from the first through most of the 4th Doctor's tenure. So here we go with the very beginning. This is the classic opening, and it is in the key of E minor. It has a longer opening than some. Very thin and very not a lot of different additions to it, really. It's just this very simple first version, and as you go through seasons 1 through 17, you find that are expanded upon, but it's just basically the same, though. I mean, it's still E minor. If you have the longer version of it, like at the end of an episode, it goes into what's called the middle 8, the sort of 8-bar section in the middle of the song or tune where it switches over into the relative major. So it goes from E minor to G major and then back to E minor to repeat the main tune. And you could also argue that it's not just E minor, it could also be E Phrygian. The Phrygian mode is much like the minor scale, except it has a flat 2. So in the key of E minor, you normally have an F sharp. The Phrygian mode makes that F sharp an F natural. It's not always in Phrygian, but it has a few F naturals along the way, so it gives you a Phrygian feel to it. I think some people might analyze it like the bass diddly dums are doing one thing, and then the ooh wee oo melody is in a different mode. I think I've read people analyzing it that way. But on the whole, it uses both the minor and the Phrygian scale in the key of E. Moves to G major, the relative major, and then back again. Now, this E minor, G major area is a very intellectual key area. You can talk about how different keys or families of key signatures have different affect to them, and to some degree this is subjective and prone to individual opinion. But in general, there is a very vague general consensus on how we hear and interpret the sound of different key signatures. The E minor, G major area is kind of in the basic but thoughtful, almost intellectual sort of realm. So for the origins of Doctor Who as this, new, different, thoughtful, and slightly educational TV show, E minor makes a lot of sense. Then we get to season 18, the last season with the Fourth Doctor, and this is how the music sounds for him and through the Fifth Doctor's tenure and the beginning of the Sixth. A bit more sudden opening. We'll get to that melody a little quicker. So it's a bit more almost like electric guitar sort of sound, not just not purely synthesized sounds like the original. So this was I think the Howell version. I should have looked these up. So this sound though is very different. The key has changed. It's not just a rearrangement. It is a reorchestration as such, but it's also in a new key. It starts in F sharp minor. So it's moved up from E to F sharp, a whole step. So if you include the middle 8, now it's F sharp minor to A major to F sharp minor. This is a very rich key area. It's actually personally my favorite key, which, as it turns out, makes this version of the theme music one of my top favorites of all time. I keep oscillating between a couple different ones, but I didn't realize that it was an F sharp minor and A major until fairly recently when I was preparing for this video. But this is a rich key area. A major is very majestic. It's really close to E major, which some have called the key of God because it's just so overwhelmingly awesome. So A major is on the way there. It's majestic. It's a grand march sort of thing, and its flip side, F sharp minor, just has a richer sense of emotion to it. So you get the exciting highs and the meaningful lows to this key area for this arrangement of the music. In a way, that's appropriate because by 1980, the show was kind of an icon at that point, and the Fourth Doctor was kind of an icon himself, Tom Baker. So to bump up that key a notch up to F sharp minor and A major is sort of to breathes new life and excitement into this Doctor Who theme music. And when I go back and listen to like the Fifth Doctor audio stories, for example, that this arrangement of the music just makes me want to listen. I'm excited. So that's one of the cool things about this. What followed, though, the Sixth Doctor's first season used a version of this. It might be slightly out of tune. I couldn't quite figure it out. It's as if it's a half step down or no, a quarter step down. It's weird. So I'm not going to worry about that. But in the second full season of the Sixth Doctor's tenure, we had a new arrangement of the theme music. It's similar, but it's distinct. It's by Dominic Glynn, I believe. Again, these are the things that you're supposed to look up before making a video. Oh well, here he is. Yeah, it's different, isn't it? So that one is interesting because it takes off some of that guitarish edge that the previous one had. Gets a bit more electronic again, but it still has kind of a saw wave sound almost. It's just that it's sweeter, but it's a bit more grating in certain ways, kind of like the Sixth Doctor's personality. And I have to admit, I've never really liked this arrangement, which is unfortunate because nearly all of the Big Finish audio stories with the Sixth Doctor uses this arrangement. So I have to sit through it and like, okay, yeah, I get it. But one of the interesting things that this does is it takes you back to E minor, the original key. So it's a step back towards the traditional sound in that regard. So you get back into that more intellectual instead of the epic feel. Instead of the majesty of A major and F sharp minor, we're back to the more sedate, thoughtful form of E minor and G major. So perhaps that sort of feeds into the lackluster feeling that most fans have about the Sixth Doctor's time on the televised Doctor Who. Big Finish is another story. He became super awesome and beloved there, but on the TV, it wasn't a great time for Doctor Who, and that it's as if the music sort of undercut some of that momentum that was there before. So the BBC got rid of him, or Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor, and brought in a new Doctor, the Seventh Doctor, and with him came yet another whole new arrangement. This time, I've lost the saved thing, crud. Well, this time by Jeff or Kef Kullock, I don't know, a name like that. So here's his version. Hopefully, come on. There's a different sound. It also does something a little different here. This is the middle eight, that relative major section. Which takes you back to the relative minor. Okay. I played you the whole thing this time because, partly because I wanted you to hear the middle eight, the relative major section, and partly to set up for what comes next with the Eighth Doctor. So this is a very different sound. Once again, the orchestration has changed. It's still electronic, of course. That's the rule for classic Who. Rule isn't, that's how it always worked. But it has a very different feel to it somehow. And again, it's because of the key signature. This is a new one. It's not an E or F sharp. It's all the way up to A minor. So that's a very different experience. I think when I first tried to figure out how to play this on the piano, I went for A minor. It's the easiest key to play in if you're familiar with music. A minor, C major. That's all white notes on the piano. So it's the easiest to play. No sharps or flats. And when you deal with how this sounds affectively, it's I don't know, I guess basic would be the right word to use, both in the normal sense of the word as well as 2019 slang, the basic, pumpkin spice latte of music. No, I don't know. I pretend I never said that. So it's just this really simple sound, which sort of adds to the way that it's orchestrated to make it sound too sweet, some people say. This is one of my favorites personally. I think it's just related to the fact that I really like the Seventh Doctor and the fact that it uses the middle eight in the opening, which not all versions of the theme tune has done. So anyway, there's that. But the A minor to C major to A minor, it's also an interesting juxtaposition to the character of the Seventh Doctor, because he starts off seemingly a bit of a clown. Basic, simple, straightforward, silly, overly sweet, saccharine sort of show. But as time goes on, he proves himself to be a much darker, more manipulative character. So this title music becomes almost ironic for him because it's just like da 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 do do do, and it's just all like cheerful and cute and sweet and stuff. But this Doctor is not a man to be trifled with. So it's an interesting juxtaposition. Then you get to the Eighth Doctor's movie. The one-shot wonder for the music and for this visual appearance of the Eighth Doctor. And it's very different for many reasons and in many ways. So, and unlike the Seventh Doctor, this one fits the character of the Eighth Doctor perfectly. No irony here. So, the Eighth Doctor theme in the movie, 1996? I always get it wrong. It starts with the middle eight. Take note of that. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Let's see, where am I going? Back to the notes. So, notes about notes. I love music. So many pun possibilities. So this is completely different. Obviously, you can hear it's an orchestra. It's not electronic anymore. That's a first for official Doctor Who title music. I'm sure fan versions were long already in existence. But the key signature, once again, is new and different. It starts with the middle eight, as I pointed out along the way. The major section is moved to the beginning. Actually, technically it has a prologue that this video skips, but it builds to this major middle eight section before going on to the regular main theme. So it starts with D flat major, which is quite different from anything before. And then it goes to F minor for the main theme. So it's the main theme is just a half step higher than the original. So it's close in pitch, but in terms of the feel, the affect of this key, it is completely different. D flat major and F minor are flat keys. F minor has like 4 D flat, I don't know, something, a lot of flats. It's very different sound. And what you have here is romantic music. When you follow the history of classical music, you get a lot of classical music. This is broad brushstroke explanations, by the way. There are always exceptions to this. But when you look at the classical era of music, the 1700s especially, you get a lot of the intellectual musical keys. C, G, D major, sometimes A, sometimes F. You get a bit into the flats, but mostly in the basic sharps, like G major, like the original version of this Doctor Who theme. In the Romantic era, as you push into the 1800s, it swings the other way and you got a lot of flat keys. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat major. And there you get a very different feel. It's more emotional, less intellectual somehow, and feels, cutting to your heart. It's like, oh yes, play that really sad, beautiful violin solo. It's kind of, that's again, stereotypes, but it's pointing in that direction. And that's what the Eighth Doctor's movie theme music does. It takes you into D flat major. It has a triumphant sound in the way that it's orchestrated and played, but it's done so with a very emotional flat key, D flat major. And then it goes into F minor. And that's weird because every single one, all of the other versions, you are working from a relative minor to a relative major and back. This is not simply a matter of switching the order, doing the major first and then the minor. This is saying a whole new relationship the harmonic relationship is actually inverted. You normally go from a relative minor up a major third to the relative major and then back down that third. This is starting on the major and going to minor, but instead of going down a third to the relative minor, it is going up a third to a different minor key. So the nature of that key change, that modulation, is completely different. The usual setup, going from relative minor and major, you just need a common tone and you just pivot around and boom, you're in a new key. Really, really simple. This, however, requires a bit of a bend. I go back a couple minutes and you'll hear what I mean. It just sort of has to da 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 to get from major to minor to settle into F minor from D flat major. It's still an easy key change, but the way that they have to do it is very, very different. So that also adds to what makes this music, this version of the music, so different from its predecessors and from anything that's really been done since, with one Big Finish Audio arrangement exception, but only one. And then, of course, we have the rest of the Wilderness years, the slightly longer gap, and we get to 2005, and Yoo-Hoo. So let's see if my nope, I lost the saved tab. So that'll be fun. So Yoo-Hoo, 2005 unto the present, has gone through several different orchestrations. Murray Gold did a lot of different things between the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th Doctors, and now new guy, Segun Akinola, I believe, with the 13th Doctor. The arrangements and orchestrations have differed quite a bit, but what is different, or what is the same about them all, is that they are all in the same key. That has not changed. So let's hear it. Let's go to 2005. Slightly longer start again. So you can make a lot of different observations about the way it's orchestrated. It's faster. There are instruments again, but also an electronic element. So there's a bit of the original, like 1963 sound, along with some orchestral arrangements. So it really changes things around. But it's as if it pulls on a whole different bunch of stuff. And as Murray Gold revises his orchestration of it over the years, you hear more and more echoes of the past. You get the opening screech, like the Howl version from 1980. You get some of the electronic sound of the 60s, and some of the exciting orchestral stuff from the 8th Doctor movie. So a lot of different stuff going into this. But what it does all the way through the Yoo-Hoo run thus far to this date, without exception that I can remember, is it's all back in E minor. We're back in the original key after all these years. E minor, G major when you get the middle 8, and back to E minor. So we're back to that intellectual sort of understated key area. Rather than using the key to make it more exciting or to vary the sound, we're varying the orchestration and all that stuff. So again, you can watch that video and it'll take you through, oh gosh, maybe 5 or 6 different versions of the title music, because that video also does like the different title screen visuals as well, even if the music barely changes. So you can go and watch and enjoy that. But in terms of the key, we're back in E minor, G major, E minor, and that's where we have been for 11 seasons of new Doctor Who. So there we go. Thank you for geeking out with me and being a very unusual Doctor Who music nerd. And I'll let you go because it's been long enough already. Cheers.